Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a good holiday season so far. A good buddy of mine, Patrick, has been asking me to do this for a little while, and as you might be able to hear, it's about delay. Tick, 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 and how to make it a little more interesting than just sounding like, your metronome. Sometimes delays can sound a little stale, and especially if you use like a quarter note delay, which I like to tap my quarter notes. That's the easiest way for me while I'm playing to tap in a tempo into my delay. And I like to set my delay tempo when I can if the delay has if it has a tap input or the tap option, and then settings parameters for the delays, I like to set it to be dotted eighth notes, not quarter notes. As you can see, I have a quarter note delay here right under the note setting. I'm using the DD500 by Boss, and I'm pulling up the editor by them. I have tapped in a tempo of 100 beats per minute. Miraculously enough, I have no idea how I managed to do that, but I did it. And here we are. We're starting at 100 beats per minute quarter notes, so that basically every time we hear a click, it's going to be the same thing with the guitar. Come over to my unit. I tapped in quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And my metronome gives me 1, 2, 3, 4. I can add eighth notes with this particular metronome. I can bring in eighth notes, which is a nice option. But if you want to hear what I tapped, that's what I tapped with my foot. Bop, bop. And it can get a little in the way when you're playing and you're using that. Right now, I have the delay level set real high so that, as you can see here, I have the effect level at 87, and that means that it's real close to the same amount of the guitar level, the direct level, which is right below it. And the input level, I have it at 100% too. I wouldn't necessarily play with that much delay present, but I want to bring that up just to point it out, and it is effective to do that in certain situations. The first time I really recall hearing dotted eighth notes and going, whoa, what was that? What the heck was that? Was when I was younger and I heard Van Halen's Cathedral, and just the way he is using volume swells as well as fretting notes, it was incredible. And it made me want a delay. Like, I literally went out and got a delay that weekend. And there was no tap tempos back then in the 80s and little pedals. You just had to kind of tweak it and dial it in. So I've always found around the 400 millisecond range, somewhere in that range was a good ballpark. They become musical. They become this cascade underneath your fingers, and especially if you're used to playing eighth notes, quarter notes, even triplets can sound real good with these dotted eighth notes, because you bring the level down and they stay out of the way of your picking, or you bring that level back up and you do those volume swells like in Cathedral. And it just kind of creates its own effect. I guess the next time I really heard it and was like, whoa, was Black Star, Yingwei. And then I just started hearing that kind of effect on guitar sounds all over the place. Night Ranger. Plenty of examples, especially back in the 80s, where a guitar with that particular delay setting per the tempo of the song would become a really cool effect. And the settings of the delay kind of dictated what you ended up playing, but you could also bring that level down and then just play, and it would naturally sound pretty good. I had even heard at some point, and I don't know if he sets it up for a basic dotted eighth kind of a feel within his general tempo range, but I had originally read somewhere that Joe Satriani uses pretty much one or two delay tempos and just plays around with that. I don't think he's known for a lot of those kind of swelling, cascading volume note delays, the way that Eddie kind of was, the way that a couple other people kind of made him popular. But it's a real great effect. And if you want to just throw that kind of sound into a solo, it's important to know your tempo of the song and then to have it set for dotted eighth and then to tap in the quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. When you set it to a dotted eighth, that's kind of going to get you in that ballpark, and then you're going to adjust your level and just kind of go from there. I tend to have a real similar setup. I only have a couple of ranges of tempos that I use. There's a couple of spots where I specifically use quarter note delays for that impact of having it match, and be there. But I personally don't like using that on solos. I only use it when it's really needed. I tend to like dotted eighth note delays for solos a little bit more. So let's get into how we would set that up, at least with this software. Right now, as we heard, the quarter notes, just real metronomic, real spot on. So I'm going to go over here to the software, and I'm going to change it to dotted 1/8D. Some delays are going to just show it as the note representation, which would be the circle and then the up line and then one flag. So that's an eighth note. And then if you dot it, you're adding half of that note's time to it. I won't get too much into theory, but we're basically adding half of an eighth note and an eighth note to our delay, or we're adding an eighth note and a 16th note to our delay when we go over to dotted eighth notes. Now that I've changed that over to eighth dotted, it just gets more interesting sounding to me. It just doesn't sound metronomic. I have it set up pretty simple, just a standard delay, because I really just want one delay to stand out. Of course, there's all sorts of different options. If you do a dual delay, you'll be able to add another note. We're not going to do that right now, but some of these other sounds, you'll basically be able to do the same kind of a thing, but just with maybe some more chorusing, some flutters, something like that. I think if you're going to do the swells, it's easiest to set it up with standard delay, dotted eighth note, and as you could hear, that's the same tempo that I tapped into the delay originally. I haven't tapped in another tempo. I'm still at 100 beats per minute, but now that it's over to that eighth note with the dot, you can hear it's not quite as long as a quarter note, and it's a little longer than an eighth note. So it's in between this spot where we might be doing our tempo picking, and the delays can naturally kind of come in and out of there. Let me bring that level down a little and just kind of show you. I like that feel when I'm playing a solo. Tap in the tempo and then know that my delays aren't just sitting there right in that tapped area, stepping on notes. The quarter notes or the even the half notes, the effect that Steve Vai gets when he builds up like a harmony part and it's do 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 do. It's this repeating, building note of note, and they're all timed out just right. That's not going to be a dotted figure. That's generally going to be quarter note or half note kind of a thing. Whereas the dotted is going to start, the things are going to fall in between things like raindrops, little cascading raindrops. Yes. Anyway, before I get too goofy, that's one way to look at it. And then you add some reverb. To me, I like adding a little shimmer reverb to that. And I could literally sit and play that kind of a sound all night. If I don't really tap in another tempo, I know I'm probably going to be playing in that range between 90 something and 115, 120. If I really need to get faster and faster and really need to lock in, I'll go over and tap it in. You know, I'm not that particular about tempos a lot of times for stuff like this, except for certain parts when it really needs to be there. And that's where tap tempo really, oh man, I mean, it became just such a great thing for guitarists to just be able to sit there and tap their tempo. The best way is to kind of just think about what it is you're playing and then what you're going for, and then find that specific tempo in between. My Boss Mini, I'll grab that real quick because that's a perfect example of how to get this same kind of effect. If I'm playing to the delay, then it's not going to work. But if I remember my tempo, you know, you can start to get into that zone a little quicker. And if you need to do a little faster, you know, so the BPM doesn't change on the software, but it looks like I brought it up to 120. Yeah, 120. Look at that. I managed to tap out 120. Holy moly. So I'll type that into the software real quick. And you see, still pretty much the same. If I turned off the delay, let's see, I think I could turn it off and not change anything here. I'm just doing that. Turn the delay back on. Oh, Buckethead. He's another person that I think of with this kind of a thing. So I know if I wanted to play slowly, then that would work. But if I play too fast, it starts to just become that metronome thing. So I want to bring the timing down a little, you know, and start to feel it. You know, bring it back up too much and you can tell the lick I'm trying to play with the Cascade isn't quite feeling like the Cascade thing. And then if I want to go faster, I got to bring that time, make it even quicker. So again, that's just becomes a reasonably easy to set and forget kind of a sound once you kind of get locked into the idea of where it is you're going to be playing. And then the tempo picks up a little bit for a song. You got to bring that time back a little, Song slows down, bring the time up because you're going to have a longer delay. I just kind of, kind of get that cathedral kind of thing going on and then set the delay accordingly and then back it down. Real easy to get caught up in playing with delays. It's like really it's my desert island effect. If I could only have one effect, it would be at least a reasonably decent amp and a delay pedal. That would be all I really would need because you could just get so lost. Add some shimmer, nice little bonus, great, sure, I'll take it. But a dotted eighth, kind of a setting, kind of a feel, that cascading sound, that's what I like to go for with my delays. Patrick and anybody watching still at this point, I hope that this helped you out in kind of how I hear it, how other people hear it when they describe a dotted eighth. That's what I think we're all kind of going for, is either that cathedral sound or that out of the way of my playing kind of sound. That's the goal of the dotted eighth in my eyes. And hopefully I have given you a couple of audio examples as well as some concepts behind why it's beneficial, why it's usable, why it's a cool thing, and it has its place in the delays. Quarter notes, great. They're cool, and if you're doing certain things, they're perfect for that. But for the most part, a dotted eighth is going to work a little bit better and maybe not feel quite so stale. So if you have the option in your DAW, you should just give it a shot. If your pedal has it, give it a shot. If you hate it, don't use it. If you like it and you've never tried it before, hopefully I've given you a little something to add to your recipe of flavors. So anyways, on the food note, have a good Thanksgiving, have a good holiday season, have a good everything. Thank you all for being here at Double D Guitar. I really appreciate it. Take care.